sort of Supreme Court precedent, commercial speech doesn't get the same kind of protection that other kinds of speech, political speech, like when we're just having this conversation. So it can be subject to some regulation. And I'm kind of sympathetic to that because I think we want people to be able to trust what they see. If a pharmaceutical company is making certain statements about what their drugs do, we kind of want people to be able to trust that. But that said, it's still subject to some protection. So there has to be, a reasonable connection between the restriction and the ends sought. But the other problem with what Kennedy said is he doesn't really have the authority to make those kinds of rules and regulations. I mean, if Congress enacted a law that regulated commercial speech in that respect, I would be more sympathetic to it than the HHS secretary. I mean, he's not supposed to be making laws. And that was actually my former job. A lot of what I did was challenging administrative determinations that were effectively lawmaking when the executive is not supposed to have that kind of power. So we'd often concede if Congress did this, that would be fine. They could do that, but the executive can't. And it's different because the legislature is made up of a lot of people. They're democratically elected, or and they represent their constituents. It's just different than having the executive branch making law effectively.
RFK, talk about what's the proper role of HHS. RFK tried to say that anti-Semitism is a health issue.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. I was actually going to get to that next. Well, he's using his authority as HHS secretary now to withhold funds from universities for not tamping down on anti-Semitism. And I was asked about for the Washington Post article for some examples of people who were very hypocritical on this issue. And a few of the ones that came to mind were friends. So I wouldn't say them, but I was like, okay, RFK is not my friend. So because he claimed to be so free speech during COVID, and he gave that speech that I was in tears over. And then the minute he gets into office, he's saying anti-Semitism is a plague, basically a plague. And so I have authority to control it by stopping anti-Semitism on campuses, which includes pro-Palestine protests. Like, that's insane.